to the 219th episode of the Jami Dulaney Plant Based Wellness Podcast. My name is Jami Dulaney, and I'm your host. I'm a plant-based cardiologist and endurance athlete living in Southwest Florida. Thanks for tuning in and listening. It's still hot down here in Florida. I'll keep saying that until about January, I guess. We're in the throes of summer. I just attended the International Conference on Nutrition and Medicine in Washington, D.C., and I'll have the next episode will be largely about that with my trusted, best registered dietitian, Addie Dulaney-Meinerich. But this week, I have a guest that I've been wanting to have on for quite some time. His name is Nate Beard, and Nate is the COO of GeoStabilization, which is an emergency engineering firm that responds to landslides, bridge collapsing, sinkholes, any kind of disaster that you can, rock slides that you can think of. And this firm drops what it's doing basically and goes and assesses the situation and forms a plan and enacts that plan. And I met one of the founders, Bob Barrett, a couple of years ago at a vegan meetup group. And Bob found out that Bob Barrett is a fellow West Virginian, and we had a lot in common, and he had recently at that time taken up plant-based nutrition. And this company is really, really special. To all you West Virginians out there, my heart always will be in West Virginia. And the people there are just very, very special, very intelligent, very humble. And Bob is the epitome of a humble West Virginian with the brilliance in the engineering field. But he shines the most when it comes to compassion for his family of 500 employees. And so GeoStabilization has grown from a small company to a rather large company. They're scattered throughout, again, they respond to emergencies throughout the United States, Canada, and even in New Zealand. But, just to put a quote from, their website, and one of the things that they always say is do the right thing. And that's always been near and dear to my heart because my father always said, just do the right thing. But, they say we run fast, we work hard, and we exceed, and we succeed in doing whatever endeavor they're out for. And they check their ego at the door, and humility is a job requirement. We care about people and innovation and utmost doing the right thing. So, this is a great company. And the reason, why I'm having Nate on, Nate is a COO, as I said before, and I want to, highlight this company is for what they've done with plant-based nutrition for their employees. Again, Bob became plant-based. He calls himself a pragmatic vegan in that, if something happens and he's traveling in remote aspects of the world, there may be a little butter or oil someplace, but for the most part, he tries to be a sugar, oil, salt-free vegan, the majority of the time. But he's also set up a foundation called Healthspan, and it is to educate and share knowledge with all of the employees, learn together not only about plant-based nutrition, but family values and general wellness when it comes to mind, body, yoga sessions, meditation sessions, and Nate and I will go into just all that they share with their employees. But he treats these 500 employees as their family members, and he wants all his family to be as healthy and as happy and as stable as they possibly can. And so the latest thing that Bob did was offer my cookbook for free to any one of his employees that wanted one. So we've shipped close to, I think, our 130 cookbooks to Canada, to New Zealand, and all over the United States, so that people could have a book that they could, cook from. He's also bought, slow cookers for anybody, the guys that are traveling, and grills, because he wants them to cook for themselves, and he wants them to eat healthy when they're on the road, because obviously they're doing very dangerous jobs and they need to be as healthy and as focused as they possibly can. So I hope that you enjoy this interview today. Again, we have the Plant Based Wellness Cookbook, 3 Generations of Cooking, the Doctor, the Dietitian, and the Diva. It's available on Amazon. Or you can ask your local bookstore to get it. We certainly have them in the office. If you'd like an autographed copy, you can give us an email, and we can certainly send one out to you directly. But I hope you'll go over and take a look. The recipes come from our nutrition class. So we have 3 nutrition classes in the office a week. So they're tried and true recipes that everybody likes, and they're also family recipes that Addie and my mother and I have developed over the years, being plant-based, and things that we share with our family and friends that have become our go-to recipes that we really, really enjoy. None of the recipes are very complicated, with the one exception of my grandmother's bread. It is more it's pretty complicated, but it's also time consuming. But the recipes of the main cookbook are something that you could get on the table anytime during the week or at the weekend. They don't require any kind of fancy ingredients. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope you'll pick up a cookbook, and if you do enjoy it, leave us a review on Amazon. That would help us out greatly. As far as my training goes, it's full force. Ironman Chattanooga, here we come. Swimming, biking, running. Feeling good, doing some weight training sessions. The latest drink mix that I've been using is a combination of grape juice and a little maple syrup and water. That's going to be my hydration nutrition, as far as then plus water on the side. I do use a bonk bar, which is a vegan bar on the bike. Running, I have been using my practicing the breathing technique, so I do all my long runs at a slow enough pace that I breathe through my nose. It decreases my energy needs, so I'll take probably 1 gel for 15 miles, and I use either a Cliff product or a Huma gel. The Huma gels have some chia seeds, so that's kind of where the nutrition is. I'm going to try to keep it as simple as I can this go around, and see how that goes. As we discussed on the last podcast, we're going to have an August challenge. It's my birthday month challenge. And if you would like to participate, you can go to our website, drdulaney.com. It's DOCTORDULANEY, and sign up. For the price of signing up, you get a shirt. And if you'd like a exercise program for those weeks or some suggestions, we're willing to do that as well, trying to get as many people moving this summer as we possibly can. If you are a member of our practice, then there's no cost to sign up, and you can just merely go on our private website or our private Facebook page, or send us an email and say you'd like to participate. What we're going to do is the people every Monday, and there's a directions written out on the website as well, but every Monday people are going to log on my Facebook page, my professional page, how many minutes of continuous exercise that they have done. And if you can show us a little documentation, that would be great. And the winner will receive a free cookbook at the end of August. And we'll also put everybody that participates' name in a drawing to give 2 free nutrition consults from Addie Dulaney Meinerich. If you're a member and you have access to Addie all the time, you can donate those to a friend. And certainly, if you don't want to consult with Addie and you'd happen to win, if you're not a member, you can also donate this to somebody else. So it's more about just getting everybody moving and having a little fun on the website for the month of August. Personally, today I spoke with someone. They're doing burpees in CrossFit. I think I'll add those to my exercise regimen in August. I'm also going to, use it as an ab month to add that into my weight training, as well as, triathlon training. So anything you can do to bump up your fitness is a great thing. So we'd like to have you participate. If you have any questions about anything, you can always email us at info@drdulaney.com. And we'll get back to you. So now, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and play the interview with Nate Beard, and I hope you enjoy it. I'd like to welcome Nate Beard today on the podcast. I guess I met Nate a few years ago when I was working with him, the founder of the Healthspan Foundation, Bob Barrett. Bob asked me to give a talk to the employees of GSI, and that is GeoStabilization International Incorporated. And he asked me to give a talk on plant-based nutrition. And so I showed up one Saturday morning and at the local clubhouse where Bob lives. And I had a bunch of big burly guys that Bob had doing yoga, and I gave them a talk, and they were some of the most respectful people that I've ever met. And Bob catered the whole thing, plant-based, sugar, oil, and salt-free. And he has gone on to found Healthspan Foundation. And, Nate and I will talk about it, but it's tremendous things happening in this organization that I actually want to highlight because there's just so many good things being done. But, Nate, if you can just tell me, and welcome, thank you for taking time to speak with me, but if you can, and Nate is ex-Air Force, and when I looked into the bio of a lot of people there, you were Air Force Academy, Colby's Marines. I mean, so you got all these big, powerful people in this company. But tell me a little bit about the company in a nutshell for me, if you would, please. And welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. So we are, GeoStabilization is a design-build specialty construction firm. And we operate throughout the United States and Canada and even have a presence in New Zealand. But we really specialize in emergency geohazard mitigation. And that's a unique term to most, but geohazard mitigation. So geohazards are things like landslides, rock falls, settlement, soil settlement, sinkholes. And what we do, our specialty is we show up in an emergency situation or more before we're planned with an engineer and engineer the repair, and then also show up with the crews to construct it. So you can imagine on these landslides or rock falls that can be dangerous, obviously very difficult, moving slopes, guys and equipment hanging off of ropes hundreds of feet above the ground. And, it's scary stuff for the untrained construction worker, which is, why it's so important for us to really focus on health and fitness for our employees.
Yeah, I was, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead. Yeah, I was just going to emphasize that, Bob founded GSI in 2002. At that time it was just him and his partner. And today we're just right at 500 employees, so 500 family members. And, that growth has really been a product of Bob being the innovator that he is, the change driver. He's always been really curious about new ways to do things. And passionate about those things that he believes to be true. And I know you've experienced that through his organization around plant-based, whole food diets. But those characteristics are why we're successful. And I'm a product of what brought that Bob's passion and his pursuit to making those around him better. And you mentioned that multiple people from employees from GSI were down there doing yoga. You could have the same interview with any number of us, and I think they would all say the same things about him and what he's done for our organization.
Bob and I have something in common. We're both West Virginia folks. And, we actually met at a little plant-based picnic. He came into Punta Gorda to meet people, and we started talking. And, he is one of the most humble people that I have ever met. And, and I started talking to him, and then I looked, and you're also very humble because I got to tell you, if you're listening, you should actually look up geostabilization and there's some YouTube videos out there. You guys took the technology from rocket launchers to send these nails into the side of these walls. Correct? What's that nail gun thing called?
The soil nail launcher. It's a demilitarized British cannon that was originally designed to launch nerve gas canisters, and we've taken that technology and repurposed it. So rather than using it for war situations, we repurposed it for the battle against landslides and other geohazards. But it's really unique technology and neat to see.
Yeah, it was completely. I went down to give a talk, but I was equally impressed by what I heard. So Bob started. He became plant-based and saw what it did for his health. And like you said, you were a group of people that are very health conscious because you're doing very dangerous jobs, very technical jobs. And when I went down there, I wasn't sure what I was going to run into, especially when you get he told me there was some guys that did a lot of weightlifting, and there was football players. You were Naval Academy, Air Force Academy football, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Get that one straight.
Yeah, get that one straight.
It's from 1997 till 2000. I played football at the Air Force Academy, and then had the opportunity to stay after my first assignment as a second lieutenant and coach football, and that really exposed me to competing at a whole nother level. The importance of strength and conditioning, importance of what you put into your body, how you use your body, and then the follow on with spending some time in the military after that. I was exposed to special forces and how professional athletes in general operate and prepare themselves for dangerous or demanding environments, and think about game day and how difficult that can be to prepare for. And so we look at our typical construction worker, and there's a lot of parallels to be had between what we're asking them to do and the dangerous environments we're putting them in. And so we said, if that's the way that our top military or our top athletes train, why don't we adopt that within our organization and communicate to them the same way? And so that's another one of the things that Bob's brought to our organization.
Yeah, that's very, very impressive. And you also Olympic trials in weightlifting. Was that true? Is that right?
It's been a while since I talked about that. While I was at the academy, I just wasn't as talented as some of the other athletically talented as some of the other guys that I competed against. So I had a much more focus on time in the weight room, and during that time I broke our power index record. So the school record was a power index, which is a combination of your bench, your squat, and your clean that took into account what your body weight was. And I believe that record actually still holds today.
Oh, wow.
So at that time, my clean and jerk was around 405, 415 pounds. I did a jump from 405 to 423, I think, to try to break the school record in the clean and jerk. And that was, I think, at that point would have been the taking first place at the Olympic Open for the best in the United States in the open category. So I transitioned that next year after college football into training for Olympic weightlifting. But it was a short-lived career where I was only able to dedicate just a few months to it before my military priorities took over. But it was a lot of fun to compete at that level.
Very cool. And then you went on, I guess, after you became a CrossFit athlete. And, when I was preparing for this interview, and of course we met, and, I know you're plant-based, and, he's a big fella out there for anybody that doubts any of this at this point, but your 2010 CrossFit, well, you have some, accomplishments in the, really winning some divisions. But you had an interview on YouTube, and we were talking before. You said, you were doing a paleo zone diet, and you really were eating, very high protein diet, and kind of bonked on one day, and then came back after, you needed more carbohydrates. And I thought that was really, I got a chuckle out of that, because this was before you were plant-based. And it's like, well, you fessed up way back when that you needed more carbohydrates to actually perform at the explosive level that you were performing at. Of course, you know that your choice of carbohydrates were probably not what they would be now, but I did enjoy hearing that.
Yeah, no, obviously you learn through some of your best lessons or most important lessons in life through some of your worst failures. And I had a terrible first day at the regional level at the CrossFit Games, and learned a lot about proper nutrition, preparing for competition. And it's not just the event that you're competing in currently, but actually preparing yourself and your body for competing a couple hours later again the next day. And I focused a lot on the paleo or zone diet, being very clean, and I believe I was very deficient in my carbohydrates, especially on game day. And you're right, I've made a drastic change from going from paleo or similar diets to a very, very close to vegan. I would almost say I'm a strict vegan and have been for the last 2 years, with very, very few exceptions. Bob uses the term pragmatic vegan, and I've adopted that. And that I'll knowingly eat, I won't knowingly eat anything that has egg or butter or any of that in it. But there are times, and I've used this as a example to relate maybe more with some of the construction workers I'm around or others within my life that wouldn't understand me making that drastic of a change. But I say that I'll eat meat if I've actually killed it that day, which may actually sound distasteful for a lot of animal lovers out there. But if you think about it, that really restricts you to small things like fishing or going scalloping or things like that I can enjoy with my family. And over the 2-year period that I've been on this diet, I really only had 3 opportunities to actually eat something that I've killed, and those were just fish. And in one of the cases, it was a lionfish, which are invasive species in and around Florida. And it's always a good feeling when you can eliminate some of those.
Yeah, I like Bob's pragmatic. I don't think vegan term. I don't think you probably know this. Maybe you did, because I think I may have told it the second conference. But when I was preparing to come down and talk to you all, I found out you all were doing a job in the Eastern Panhandle, or I think it was southeastern area of West Virginia, and it was in the middle. It was southeastern. It was, kind of in the middle of nowhere. And so I pulled up, the good old Google Maps and brought up the 3 restaurants that were in town. And I called them. And I talked, and being a West Virginian, I figured, I could communicate enough with them to see if I could get my way. And I asked them, it's like, well, I got some people down there that I'm, going to have in the area, and they, like to go out to a restaurant. And I was wondering if you could do you have any beans on the menu? Do you have any? And I think, there was probably 2 out of 3 that's like, well, and they weren't sure why I didn't want them to have, these big guys have meat. But yeah, we could fix some beans, and we could do some, and it was funny how they were, willing to work. They had no idea why anybody would want to, but they were, willing to try to make it happen. And one restaurant said, no, we just don't have anything that's not, they just plain and simple said they didn't have anything. But it was kind of an interesting conversation, because I like to do that when people tell me that they can't find anything at a restaurant. And you can speak to this too, because you guys are all over the world and in some remote locations. You can usually find something. Is that your experience?
I've always been able to find something. I operate based off of eating high quality food, and missing a meal typically isn't an option. And those scenarios where you go to a rural location in Texas or Oklahoma or West Virginia, you find a restaurant, typically even their vegetables are mixed with some sort of a pork product. And in those situations, although it's rare, I'll end up just eating baked potatoes, just without any butter or any of the toppings on them, and you get by and feel great, and it's certainly plenty of fuel. But yeah, you're right. I guess to explain kind of what our employees are up against, just from my personal experiences, is we typically work 12 hours a day, and I've counted just through some of the flight apps. I've typically flown around 150 flight segments per year at a minimum. And so, a flight segment is every time there's a landing and a takeoff, that would be one segment. and multiply that times 10 years of living this. I'm flying between 4 different time zones. So my sleep is interrupted. You're staying in different hotel rooms all the time. So there's different sounds that are going to be waking you up periodically through the night that you really can't control. You're supporting crews that are in different time zones. So I may be in the Pacific time zone and supporting a crew in the Eastern time zone. So I've got to wake up 2 or 3 hours earlier than I typically would. And then my approach to my trainings and even eating is very scattered. So I have to really take control of the things that I can control. And, certainly what you put into your mouth, into your body, is the food and what your hydration levels might be. So I really focus on those two things, knowing that I can control that, and then really try to get the maximum amount of hours of sleep that I can in that environment. And that maybe frames the picture of what our guys are up against. But they're also working out in the elements. So in the summer, you're working in really hot, oftentimes very humid environments, and in the winter, it's extremely cold. And so it's difficult then, if you've done that for 10 hours in a given day, then to say, all right, now I want to focus on my flexibility or my conditioning and go for a run or something like that. So you can see that if the guys aren't making good decisions along the way, that you can see a sharp decline in your health.
So tell me a little bit about, how did the Healthspan come about, as far as how did that first get introduced? I mean, so you guys were already living, eating pretty healthy. Most people, they were in pretty good shape. There were some that were struggling, that had some health conditions. They were muscularly good, but physiologically not quite as good as they could be.
Absolutely. And you look at a lot of our guys, they don't really have great choices, and some of it's because their only option is a gas station. But they grew up in a culture where you mentioned West Virginia, that eating a lot of animal products or eating a lot of processed foods, prepackaged foods, is just what everybody does. So they don't maybe understand some of the best options that are out there for them. And if you look at it from the perspective of, I think we compared ourselves, and we talked about competing in the Olympics, or competing at CrossFit, or in college sports. I really look at that as maybe a top level. If you look at a range from 0 to 10, and 10 being the perfect, you're eating a whole food, plant-based diet. You're getting the right amount of sleep. You're drinking the right amount of water throughout the day. You're stretching, really doing everything right. And then the level 0 or level 1 are the guys that aren't sleeping enough. They wake up first thing in the morning and they grab their energy drink and they smoke a cigarette. And as Bob and I visiting some of our crews, that's what we typically would see is a lot of those bad habits. Excessive alcohol consumption would be another one. And rather than looking at it from the perspective of how do we develop the perfect program and communicate that level 10, we look at it more from the perspective of how can we relate with our employees, and we talk about if you're at a level 2, let's talk about what a level 5 vision looks like for them, and work on how we can get them from that level 2 to maybe a level 3 or 4. And a lot of that is about not what you should necessarily be doing, but what what the right foods and all that are, but what you should stop doing. And it's a lot easier to create that stop doing list of 1 or 2 small victories, such as don't drink energy drinks anymore, or stop smoking. And you start seeing those small successes that build on themselves. And as an example of another initiative that Bob put into our organization is anybody that quits smoking, they'll just give you $1,000 with the agreement that if you start smoking again, you'll pay that $1,000 back. And so we still have that today, and that really encourages people to stop. But more importantly, it would discourage them from starting again, knowing that they would have to pay back $1,000.
That's fabulous. And he was doing grocery money as well, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of things that you can do for the guys living on the road, and you may know that even if you do have you're conscious about what you're putting into your body, it is difficult to consistently eat healthy going to restaurants for lunch and dinner. So we really encourage our guys to cook for themselves and go to the grocery store. We provide every one of our crews with a grill that's purchased by GSI or crock pots that are purchased by GSI, and really encourage them to cook, shop, and eat together to encourage that family support.
That's just great. Yeah, and then he has the conferences, so you train the managers, or you train your, I guess, leaders, and then they train their crews, and it just keeps passing down. And Bob puts together a lot of videos as far as not only plant-based nutrition, but living a good lifestyle. Being he encourages being a family person. Like you say, you refer to the employees as family members, and he truly does. I have spoken with several of them. He actually offered anybody that would like a consult with me that works for the company that he would take care of that. And I have spoken with and I have heard nothing but praise for the support that occurs in the company.
Yeah, absolutely. We have 5 core values that we live by, and they direct all the decisions that we make. But one of them is around protect our family, and if you think about it, it really encompasses a lot of things. It's the obvious ones, such as safety, making sure that our guys are properly trained to safely operate. We talk about leadership and integrity, but overall, I think the overall theme is that we're just really trying to get each other better every day. And Bob is certainly supportive of that. Another thing that I hadn't mentioned yet that's really important to point out is that we've actually invested in having a wellness coach. We have Kendrick Ferris, and I think many listening would probably recognize that name. He competed in the Olympics and Olympic weightlifting. He competed in the last 3 Olympics in Olympic weightlifting, and is featured in the movie that's coming out, The Game Changers. And he's great because he introduces himself at every one of our new hire orientations, and actually travels out to our crews to spend time with them to help them with whatever they're looking to improve in their life. And there's certainly a lot of things beyond just choices around food that he can help with. Your exercising, how you sleep. He's trained for many years as an Olympic athlete, has a wealth of knowledge that he can bring to our guys. And I think beyond just that, he's really relatable to our guys. Having grown up in Shreveport, Louisiana, and faced a lot of the same things that you talked about with just the culture there and eating habits and lifestyle habits, and how he's overcome those is a pretty powerful story. So I'm really excited about that movie coming out. I'm not sure if you've had a chance to watch it already.
Yeah, I've seen the movie. It was at a conference that I was at last year. I can't wait for it to come out either. It's actually coming here to Port Charlotte. We're going to have a showing, and when it was over, I wanted more. It was such a good movie that I could watch it for another couple hours.
Yeah, I'm excited about it because I think it's mainstream. Really, there's a couple other documentaries that influenced my move to more of a plant-based diet. And the first one, and Bob was the one that sent them to me. The first one was Forks Over Knives. And I was excited to try that. But like most people, I just said, let me do a 30-day challenge of more of a plant-based lifestyle, which on the 31st day was when I went back to eating hamburgers and steak. So it was a short-lived victory. But then in 2017, June of 2017, Bob forwarded me a link to the movie What the Health, and that was the one that really flipped the switch for my family. And I think a lot of it was around just how baffled we were by the fact that a lot of our leading health organizations were or they just seem to be quiet about, a lot of the health dangers around animal products. And, cited the American Heart Association, American Diabetes Association. And, I know my wife was, very turned off by hearing that, and very supportive of us moving towards the plant-based diet. And that's key, obviously, because I can be as passionate as I want to be about not eating a lot of animal products or any animal products. But if you don't have that support at home and you're not in it together, then you're not spending time cooking together and eating as a family. It can be very difficult.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the difference between those two is I thought they were very much more scientific approach to it, whereas the Game Changers brings in Arnold Schwarzenegger and Olympic athletes, NFL football players, World's Strongest Man, Kendrick Ferris. I thought it was much more of a mainstream or Hollywood approach where I think it will attract a lot more people.
Yeah, just the young. I think Forks Over Knives, it appeals to the older individual that has health problems. That it's like, oh my gosh, I don't have to have high cholesterol. I don't have to have a stent, or my life's not over. But what the health, it gets down into the 30, 40-year-old crew, and even into the 20-some, but 30, 40, it's like, well, maybe the general medical community is really not looking out for our best interest all the time. And there's, business is business, even when it comes to health. And, it opens your eyes up, gets people's head out of the sand that, hey, I'm going to have to look after myself here because, there's so many other interests in the name of the dollar involved here that, I don't know that my best interest is always going to be, looked after. And then, Game Changers is going to be, these are athletes. And if it's good enough for athletes, it's good enough for them they get paid to perform. And if plant-based nutrition improves their game performance and their ability to do their job, then why wouldn't it, improve my ability to, be a teacher or a construction worker or an engineer or a pilot, and so I think that's going to be huge, and it's going to, the kids can see it. You see a big, strong guy, kids are more likely to do it. I always, when somebody brings their kids to the office or their grandkids to the office, I always pull up pictures of vegan weightlifters. Now I have to. I'm fortunate enough, my son-in-law is the strength coach for the Houston football team, Houston University. And so, I always say, my son-in-law is a big 220-pound, power lifter, and he eats plants, and he does just fine. No protein supplements, no bars, eats whole foods. And so, that's, you have to appeal to people where they are, like you said.
Yeah, and there's certainly a lot of myths around protein and weightlifting. It's important to eat a lot of meat. And I know when I started in 2017, I posted on social media that I was actually passing on all the meat that was in our fridge. A big cardboard box with frozen meat products and bacon and things hanging out the top of it. And I got a lot of comments from that where people were either laughing at it or saying, say goodbye to your strength or your muscles. And it was pretty awesome afterwards to see that, just 4 to 6 weeks into it, I had gained 5 to 8 pounds. And I think it was just because I had increased the density of the nutrition that I was getting. But that I actually started to see differences in my body. I never lost any strength. But I started to develop ab muscles that I didn't even think I had. You go from a softer 6-pack to a tighter 8-pack just because of the slight modifications in your diet. But more importantly, I started monitoring my blood pressure more closely because there's a few reasons why I went that route. One of them is just my family history around heart disease and high blood pressure, and really impacted everyone in my family on both sides, grandparents, even cousins that are younger than me. But my blood pressure was around 135 to 140 over 85 to 90. So I was in that hypertension stage. And now when I check my blood pressure, it didn't take very long. 6 months later, I was consistently in the 110 over 65 range. and I stayed there. My resting heart rate's always in the 40s, and at that time it was in the upper 50s or 60s. So it's been pretty exciting to see it, and not only my own personal changes, but my wife changed her eating habits. My kids, even though we never pushed anything on them, have both changed their eating habits and are proud about being a little bit different than their friends, which I think is really important for your kids to feel comfortable being a little bit different, especially early on in those early teenage years. And then and my father, who had suffered from high blood pressure and slightly overweight, made a change during that same time frame to a vegan diet, vegan lifestyle, and lost a significant amount of weight, and has been able to help control some of his blood pressure during that time. And now my mother and her husband have also changed their diets, and I'm sure that they've impacted others within their community. So it's neat to see that domino effect.
Yes.
And I know the same thing's happening with Bob and the impact he's having within our organization.
Yeah, it's been amazing. And the latest thing that he's done is when our Plant Based Wellness Cookbook came out, he called me up and he said, I want to offer it to all my employees. So yeah, you have 500 employees, and he asked anybody that wants a cookbook, just email me. And, he paid for them to have a cookbook. And
yeah, I think last I heard it was well over 100 individuals within GSI now have your cookbook.
And I've seen some of the thank you notes come in to him, and the appreciation and the stories that they've shared about their families and their extended families of how the impact of becoming plant-based has helped. And it's just a little seed that spreads. And, it's, in some respects, it's a lot like forks over knives, Dr. Esselstyn, and it was largely the reason why I changed the practice. And when I heard him say, if you take time to explain to people the science behind it and the why, and then show them but more importantly, you actually take a genuine interest in someone, and you care about them, then you can impact great change and help them to impact great change. And I really do think that's what Bob and the rest of you all are doing with GSI, and I applaud you tremendously, all of you.
Absolutely, it's great to be a part of an organization like this where you really respect everybody around you, and that if we emphasize that everyone within GSI is a leader regardless of their title, and that everybody in this organization is my superior in some way. I have something to learn from them, and they have something to learn from me. And we take that to heart and certainly lead by example. And I really look at it as though everybody within GSI, within the organization, are like raising your children. And it's not to say that I treat anybody like a child, but I certainly wouldn't ask them to do something that I wouldn't ask my children to do, or I wouldn't hold information back that may make them better. And I think that's a healthy way to look at leadership in general, and that's something that Bob obviously encourages and treats everybody within our organization, within our family, as though they truly are family members of his.
Yeah, he certainly does, and of course I like it's all over the website. And we used to tell my daughter this every day before she went to school: do the right thing, and that's one of your all's mottos as well: do the right thing. Yeah,
absolutely. That's our number one core value. There is, always do the right thing, and I think that answers the question. Anytime you're faced with a very difficult situation, and we look at you look to your core values to overcome that, and you look back on it months later, years later, and even if it had a large expense, a warranty project, or us having to do a project for free or whatever it might be, that you always feel good that you did the right thing, and that translates into so many aspects of our lives.
Yeah, certainly it's going to help you sleep better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe if we could get that into the medical community, do the right thing. It should be emphasized more. Addie and I are going to a nutrition conference tomorrow. Maybe I'll slip do the right thing in a little bit when I get a chance. Because I think that a lot of physicians are actually frustrated because they know they're not doing the right thing. They know not. Yeah. They don't know how to get out of a system that's broken, And I think that's part of the problem. But I think, again, if you just went back to that basic core value, do the right thing, then you can figure it out, can't you?
Absolutely. And I think it's, from a high level, really everybody knows how to do it. You eat better or you eat less, and you exercise better and exercise more. But there's so many reasons why people fail, and it becomes discouraging at times when you spend as much time. And I know that Bob, I'm sure at times feels frustrated. If we have 500 employees at GSI, why are only 150 of them reading your cookbook, or why are only 30 individuals within GSI eating a vegan diet, which I would say are huge successes, right?
Right, exactly.
Perfection would be everybody eating perfect, everybody being engaged in your cookbook. But there's obviously the part that people just don't know, and there's an ignorance around it, and that's where we're really focusing on educating our guys without pushing too much information. It's got to be a slow process. And then the second is they just don't care. They're lazy. And there's some apathy, and I think that just really leads to a recipe for disaster. And I always communicate to our guys that that's not who GSI is. That's not who we are. Nobody here doesn't care, and if you fall in that category, you may actually be in the wrong place. And then the third is really they just can't help themselves. They don't have they have a lack of self-control, and that's where our program is really important. That's where leadership comes into play, and a lot of the support that we have around Kendrick Ferris and a lot of the other initiatives that we put out there for our guys. And it doesn't happen overnight, and you have to really celebrate a lot of those small victories, because it is a slow process. What we're doing now is changing the way things have been done for decades, and we're dealing with all different types, different age groups. That you got young guys that think they're bulletproof. You've got older people that have always done it that way and wouldn't be interested in making a change. All the different bad habits between guys like myself, who maybe started as an engineer, spends most of the time in an airplane sitting, in a rental car sitting, or sitting at my desk. That can have devastating results to your health. And our guys, as I mentioned before, that are still smoking or drinking a lot of alcohol, or waking up early first thing and drinking those energy drinks. But I think the toughest thing to overcome is just the cultures. And we being construction workers, our guys are wearing the steel-toed boots and the hard hats and bring your lunch pail to work attitudes, and they all, well, not all, but many of our employees are big hunters, and still see the traditional biscuits and gravy as a healthy alternative. And then you spend as much time as you can teaching them how to live a healthy lifestyle and supporting them when they're on the road or when they're here at GSI. But if you're not also teaching their spouse or their family, you find that they'll oftentimes go backwards when they go home. So it's really important to engage their spouses in those conversations. And then you get a lot of individuals that optimal health and optimal performance is really important to me, really important to you. But there's just a lot of people in our society that that's the last thing they're worried about right now. They're just really trying to get by. They've got relationship issues or mortgage payments or any number of things that are distractions for them. And so really developing that vision is important, and helping them overcome a lot of their problems. So it's not just simply for us a matter of giving them a lot of healthy alternatives and talking to them about nutrition, but helping them with emotional development or financial advice, and talking to them about some of the power of thinking and positive thinking and things of that nature. So it is an all-encompassing approach to health and fitness, which is obviously the foundation to a lot of other things. But we've really taken into account all of those, and that's what all of our leadership is certainly tasked with communicating to our group.
Yeah, it's great. And like you said, let's celebrate the small victories and keep moving forward. I'd really like to thank you for your time. Again, it's been a pleasure to be able to speak with you again. And, I'm going to keep updating everybody about, just how it is, because if we get more and more organizations and more people, like you say, it grows one person at a time.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, and, thank you for everything you've done with your proactive approach towards, preventing a lot of these diseases. And I know that you've certainly opened Bob's eyes to a lot of things, which has certainly helped me and my family. So thank you.
All right. Thank you. Have a nice evening.
You too, Jami.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed the interview with Nate Beard. I certainly did. If you want to find out more about Nate and geostabilization.com, you can go to their website. It's geostabilization.com. And I'll certainly leave a link in the show notes. It was a great pleasure to be able to speak with him. Remember, go over to Amazon and get your cookbooks. Remember to go to our website, drdulaney.com, sign up for the newsletter, or sign up for the blog post, and most importantly, sign up to be part of our August exercise challenge. It'll be a lot of fun. And until next time, I'll look forward to hearing from you on Facebook about all the great things that you're doing.